The social media trap. If you're Gen Z, then there's a high chance you grew up with phones in your hands, and that changes everything. For older generations, school ended when you got home. If you embarrassed yourself in class, the worst case scenario was a few kids talking about it for a week. Today, one awkward video can get clipped, uploaded, and replayed thousands of times before you even get home. Some apps you use that are, let's say, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat promise you connection, but they also create a non-stop competition. Everyone's showing the best version of themselves. Filtered skin, vacations you can't afford, bodies shaped by gym routines, or even surgery. When that's the feed you scroll every night, it's hard not to feel like your own life is falling short. And it's not just about looks. People flex their grades, jobs, or even how perfect their friendships are. The pressure hits hard because there's no off switch. The phone is always in your pocket. This constant comparison makes people anxious, depressed, and have low self-esteem. The money wall. For a lot of Gen Z, the future feels like it comes with a price tag they'll never afford. College costs have skyrocketed. Rent in most cities eats half your paycheck, and even fast food feels like fine dining now. You walk into McDonald's for a quick burger and walk out wondering if you should have just invested in gold instead. And that's before you even think about cars, health insurance, or buying a house, which for many young people feels less like a milestone and more like a museum exhibit from another era. Older generations love to say, just work hard, like it's that simple. But the math doesn't add up anymore. A part-time job at the mall used to cover rent in the 80s. Today, you'd need 2 or 3 jobs just to scrape by, and even then, you're barely covering bills. If you are Gen Z, then you know this because you've watched your parents and older siblings struggle under student loans and credit card debt, and they're terrified of ending up in the same trap. The dating freeze. Dating used to start young. Your parents might tell stories about high school dances, meeting their first boyfriend or girlfriend at 16, or even getting engaged right after college. For Gen Z, it's different. Fewer teens are dating at all, and many enter adulthood without any real relationship experience. Why? Part of it goes back to money and social spaces. When hanging out costs more and public places are less welcoming, casual dating becomes harder. A simple coffee date now feels like a small financial investment, and even sitting in a diner too long can get you side-eyed by the staff. Add the pressure of grades, jobs, and side hustles, and many young people just don't feel they have the time or energy to focus on relationships. By the time you finish school, work, and that extra shift delivering food, the only romance you've got energy for is with your pillow. And dating has mostly shifted online now. Apps like Tinder or Hinge are the main entry point, but they come with their own stress. Swiping means quick judgment. You can be rejected 100 times in a night, and ghosting is so common it feels normal. That kind of trial and error makes dating feel less like romance and more like a job interview. The result is that many Gen Z report feeling unprepared for adult relationships. Some avoid dating altogether, while others struggle with anxiety about intimacy. For a generation already dealing with loneliness, the fact that even dating feels out of reach makes the mental health picture even tougher. The ChatGPT shortcut. Gen Z grew up with the internet in their pockets, but AI has taken it to another level. Tools like ChatGPT were meant to be helpers, but for a lot of young people, they've become a crutch. Need to write an essay? Just ask the program. Struggling with math homework? Type it in. Don't know what to answer to a text? Maybe I should ask ChatGPT. Even art projects can be finished in seconds with a few prompts. At first, it feels like a cheat code. School assignments take half the time, and you get to avoid the stress of staring at a blank screen. It's like skipping the tutorial level and jumping straight to the boss fight, except you never learn the controls. The trade-off is real. If the machine does the hard thinking, you don't build the skill yourself. Teachers are already seeing gaps grow bigger, and students who leaned on AI too much often feel lost when it comes time to do things on their own. Some Gen Z students even brag online about writing entire college papers with AI. That might get you through one semester, but what happens when you hit a job interview or a test where the bot can't bail you out? The same tech that feels like a safety net can also make the ground less stable under your feet. School shootings and safety anxiety. For Gen Z, school hasn't always felt like a safe place. Alongside homework, tests, and friend drama, many also grew up with active shooter drills. Kids are taught where to hide, how to barricade doors, and what to do if someone with a gun walks into the building. Some even joke they know more about hide and seek Extreme Edition than they do about algebra, and that kind of lesson sticks with you. Instead of just practicing fire drills or tornado drills, kids were learning how to push desks against doors and stay quiet in a corner. But tell telling children to practice what to do if a shooter shows up sends a very different message. The danger isn't random, it's other people. It leaves you with a constant sense of fear that's hard to get rid of, even when nothing happens. The numbers only make it worse. News headlines about school shootings pop up so often that they blur together. But every time, young people see themselves in those stories. For some, it's not just on TV, it's close to home. Maybe a lockdown happened at their own school, or at one nearby. Sleep crisis. Getting enough sleep often feels more like a rare treat than something normal. Most teens are supposed to get around 8 hours a night, but surveys show many are getting 5 or 6 at best. At this point, a full night of sleep feels rarer than finding a free charger at the airport. The reasons pile up fast. Phones buzz late into the night with group chats, TikToks, and endless scrolling. Games don't stop at bedtime either. When your friends are online at 1 a.m., it's hard to log off without feeling like you're missing out. And even when the phone is down, the stress stays. Homework deadlines, worries about money, or just the habit of checking one more thing keep brains racing long after the lights go out. Some even say they can't fall asleep without a video playing in the background, which means the blue light keeps them half awake anyway. Lack of sleep isn't just about being tired in class the next day. Over time, it messes with mood, focus, and even physical health. Anxiety feels worse, small problems hit harder, and your body never fully recharges. Doctors call it a mental health risk. Gen Z calls it normal. The side hustle grind. For a lot of Gen Z, having one job isn't enough. It's not unusual to see people juggling 3 side hustles just to keep up. One day you're delivering food, the next you're flipping clothes online, and by the weekend you're freelancing for someone halfway across the world. Hustle culture makes it look empowering, like you're building an empire before 25. In reality, it feels more like spinning plates, and the first ones to fall are usually sleep, health, and social life. Older generations talk about working their way up in one company. Gen Z talks about whether they should take another Uber shift or risk trying to sell handmade jewelry on Amazon. It's constant problem solving, but without the stability or benefits that used to come with real jobs. No health insurance, no retirement, not even the guarantee that next week's schedule will look the same. And it's not just about money. Hustle culture has turned free time into something people feel guilty about. If you're not working, you're told you're falling behind. Even downtime gets monetized. Hobbies become side businesses. Streaming becomes a grind, and every talent has to pay rent. By the end of it, chasing your dreams starts to feel less like a choice and more like unpaid overtime with a catchy slogan. The housing shuffle. Even after landing a job, living alone feels out of reach for a lot of Gen Z. Instead, life turns into a constant shuffle, like rotating between roommates, parents' houses, or tiny apartments that raise rent like it's a video game boss fight. You finally get comfortable in one place, and then the landlord decides it's time for market adjustment, which is just code for good luck finding a new couch to crash on. Privacy is rare, a bedroom often doubles as an office, and the kitchen might be the only quiet place to take a call. Moving stops feeling like a milestone and more like a yearly routine. Boxes don't even get fully unpacked anymore because deep down you know you'll be packing them again soon. The dream of owning a home feels even further away. Where older generations bought starter houses in their 20s, Gen Z scrolls Zillow listings like they're looking at fantasy castles. Prices don't match paychecks, interest rates are brutal, and even renting a decent one-bedroom can swallow half of your income before groceries. All of this makes home feel temporary, like you're just a guest in your own life. And while people joke about it online, the reality is tougher. Stability is hard to build when your living situation changes as often as your phone plan. The attention economy. Every app is fighting for your focus. TikTok, YouTube, Discord, games, all of them trying to be the first thing you tap when you wake up. Notifications don't just show up, they pile on like junk mail you never asked for. Even schoolwork has to fight for attention against 5 group chats buzzing at once, each one convinced it's urgent. The result is a kind of constant overload. You sit down to study, and before you know it, half an hour's gone to just one more video. The phone isn't even hidden anymore. It just sits on the desk like a second teacher, except one that's way louder and way more fun. No wonder focus feels harder to hold. The brain itself starts working like a browser with too many tabs open. Some are frozen, some are lagging, and one of them is definitely playing music you can't find. And when everything is competing at once, even simple tasks start to feel like juggling. For Gen Z, distraction isn't an accident. The platforms are built to keep you hooked, to make logging off feel like you're falling behind. Rest gets interrupted by streaks, alerts, and updates that never stop rolling in. After a while, it feels less like you're using the apps and more like the apps are using you. Digital footprint. Older generations could mess up and move on, say something dumb at school, embarrass yourself at a party, and by next week, most people forgot. For Gen Z, mistakes don't just fade. They get screenshotted, uploaded, and stored somewhere on the internet forever. Growing up online means your awkward middle school posts, cringy selfies, and old usernames are all still floating around. What started as a joke in 7th grade can end up resurfacing years later, when you're applying for jobs or trying to look professional. It's like carrying a time capsule you never agreed to bury. Even casual moments can follow you. A single bad take on Twitter, a weird TikTok you thought was funny at 2 a.m., or a photo tagged by a friend can suddenly become the first thing people see when they Google your name. That permanent record used to only exist in school. Now it exists everywhere. For Gen Z, the pressure is always there. Every post, every comment, every photo might be judged years later. The internet doesn't forget, and sometimes it doesn't forgive. It makes growing up feel less like trial and error and more like living under permanent surveillance with a laugh track.